It occurred to Pooh and Piglet that they hadn't heard from Eeyore for several days, so they put on their hats and coats and trotted across the 100-acre wood to Eeyore's stick house. Inside the house was Eeyore. "Hello, Eeyore," said Pooh. "Hello, Pooh. Hello, Piglet," said Eeyore in his glum-sounding voice. "We just thought we'd check in on you," said Piglet, "because we hadn't heard from you, and so we wanted to know if you were okay." Eeyore was silent for a moment. "Am I okay?" he asked, eventually. "Well, I don't know, to be honest. Are any of us really okay? That's what I ask myself. All I can tell you, Pooh and Piglet, is that right now I feel rather sad and alone and not much fun to be around at all, which is why I haven't bothered you. Because you wouldn't want to waste your time hanging out with someone who is sad and alone and not much fun to be around at all, now would you?" Pooh looked at Piglet, and Piglet looked at Pooh, and they both sat down, one on either side of Eeyore in his stick house. Eeyore looked at them in surprise. "What are you doing?" "We're sitting here with you," said Pooh, "because we are your friends, and true friends don't care if someone is feeling sad or alone or not much fun to be around at all. True friends are there for you anyway. So here we are." "Oh," said Eeyore. "Oh." And the three of them sat there in silence. And while Pooh and Piglet said nothing at all, somehow, almost imperceptibly, Eeyore started to feel a very tiny little bit better, because Pooh and Piglet were there. No more, no less.
Welcome to another episode of Bitches in the Kitchen.
I'm Janet.
I'm Chris. You almost said you're Pooh and Piglet.
You gotta love Pooh.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that is, I don't want to say difficult. I want to say it's relevant. Depression. I'm not talking about clinical depression, or I'm not even necessarily talking about seasonal affect disorder depression. We are talking about generalized depression. It can happen to any of us and has likely happened to all of us at one point in time. There used to be such a stigma behind depression that no one spoke about it. We're going to disclaim up front that neither of us are professionally trained in the treatment of depression. And if you have serious concerns about treatment for depression for yourself or someone else, please seek help. Janet brought up a good point yesterday when we spoke about this, about the passing of Robin Williams, one of the most funniest guys ever.
Iconic comedian.
Right.
And I think his passing and the revelation that he was clinically depressed was gut-wrenching.
It was tough. What are you supposed to do if you're the person that is depressed? And what do you do if you have the friend?
In all fairness, we've all, at our age, let's face it, in our 50s, it would be highly unlikely for us to not know somebody who has been touched by depression, whether you've known it or not, whether they disclosed to you or not. Maybe they don't even know.
And sometimes people don't even know they're depressed.
What is our responsibility and what do we do?
So we could talk about some of the basic symptoms, loss of energy, sadness, overall anxiety,
eating
not wanting
too much, not eating enough,
not wanting to participate,
sleeping too much,
not wanting to participate, pull back from your friends and family.
Easiest way to determine if somebody is feeling depressed is that their behavior has changed.
Correct.
From what it is that they are usually presenting themselves with.
And what support can you provide to someone that's depressed?
If I were depressed, you would not know it on social media.
Social media is just that. You can put literally anything you want out there. However,
you probably
that leads us to the next part. Friendships and in relationships that do matter in your life. There is a sense of responsibility. I am a fixer personality. If something is broke, I need it fixed now. That is a tough lesson because sometimes you can't fix it right now. What I have learned is that sometimes You just have to be Pooh and Piglet.
Chris?
You just have to sit.
Chris, you are such a fixer that if there was a hole in the wall that water was pouring through, if you didn't have the tools, your job would be to just sit there with your finger in it until somebody decided to go get the tools that are required. You would just stand there.
But I've also learned that sometimes you just can't fix it. Just being there like Pooh and Piglet is the best darn thing that you can do.
Just sit next to somebody.
Just sit next to somebody and let them know that you're there. Sometimes there aren't enough words. There's not enough ways to solve the problem. We have coined a term that has become very relevant to our life. And we call it the rabbit hole. So this is how we communicate. You seem to be very close to the rabbit hole right now.
Or you're in the rabbit hole.
Or you're in the rabbit hole, which when you're in the rabbit hole, sometimes it's so incredibly hard to even acknowledge that you're there. And it's not a joke. It's just meant to acknowledge, hey, I know where you are.
Somebody is standing on top of the manhole and down there is the rest of the world. And so it's like, hello, down there, are you in the rabbit hole? And what color are the walls currently? Because when I'm down there, I paint them completely differently from when you're down there.
I see you are in the rabbit hole. I'm not here to fix it. I'm just letting you know you're there. And I mean,
or that you know I'm there, or I know you're there.
Right. You actually
How many times have I asked you or you me? It's like, hey, what color are the walls today? And that's code for I know you're
in the rabbit hole.
And if you've been there long enough, then you want to redecorate.
Jan and I, neither one, are poking fun at this because it's a very absolutely serious topic. Being in a depressed state or being in a place that is incredibly difficult to get out of requires, oh my gosh, it requires strength that you don't even think you have sometimes.
Sometimes is just as in the excerpt, imperceptibly just enough for that person to know I'm not alone.
I'm not crazy.
And tomorrow is going to be a different day from today, and I'm going to get through this.
If it's bigger than that, please, seek help for those in your life, yourself, those in your life that suffer from that. But when it comes to just generalized life, I guess the moral of my story, if you will, or ours, I think this is safe, is find your tribe. Find the people that can support you, even sometimes when they don't know they're supporting you.
I guess I would say don't always be afraid of the rabbit hole. As long as it's not like brushing really close to clinical, I can't help myself out of this. But sometimes the rabbit hole is where you go to just kind of do some work or process or and grow, like you just said under your breath, which you should have said really loudly. So grow. It's kind of like there it is. Just
what have you got? Look at that beautiful bag. What are we doing? We're all going to find out together. What the hell is that? It's a rabbit hole. Bourbon.
Did I find rabbit hole bourbon?
You found rabbit hole bourbon.
I found rabbit hole bourbon.
That's
freaking
right awesome.
At that. Not that we endorse drinking when you're in the rabbit hole.
Have you tried it? Oh my God, you've already tried it. Seriously?
We will keep this in a mutual place that both of us have access to. And that when one or the other slides down the rabbit hole without the tools to re-wallpaper or repaint or re-carpet or re-floor or whatever, this might be a viable option for us because this is kind of our go-to. The next time either of us is sliding down, the other one's responsibility is to go get the bottle and at least just say, hey, I know you're there. Do you need a beverage to share, or can we share a beverage while in the rabbit hole?
I do
2020,
like
I'm changing the rules of the rabbit hole. You didn't hold it.
This is very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's fantastic.
We'll just add that to the shelf.
Add that to the shelf of bourbon that we currently own. That'll be an episode someday. All the bourbons we own.
Oh, hell no.
So let's finish up this episode because there is seriousness in the episode that we're talking about, meaning we don't want to poke fun, and we don't want anybody to be offended or thinking we're poking fun at depression, because we both understand it's very, very serious. And if you are in a position that you need to seek help, I encourage you, find a friend, find someone that you can confess to. Life's great, but you know what? Sometimes life's tough. Jan and I are not fakers. You ought to know that by now if you've been watching this for any period of time. What you see is what you get. But that doesn't mean that when this light and this camera goes off that we don't live real life just like you guys do. Don't be shamed. If you suffer depression, don't be shamed. Don't let anyone shame you, because in this day and age, there's help out there for you, and for all of us, to be honest. I don't want to say for you, for all of us.
And the sun came out.
And the sun came out.
And the sun came out as we poured that. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.